Title: Eclipsed Shadows. The mountains loomed in the distance as I drove towards the secluded cabin lodge nestled at the heart of the wilderness. The road, winding and desolate, seemed to stretch endlessly through the dense forest. The sun dipped behind the peaks, casting long shadows that whispered of secrets hidden in the ancient trees. Arriving at the cabin, I was greeted by the eerie silence of the wilderness. The air was crisp, and the scent of pine hung heavy. The lodge, a rustic structure made of weathered logs, exuded an otherworldly charm. As I stepped inside, a chill ran down my spine, as if the very walls harbored untold tales. The fireplace crackled, casting flickering shadows that danced across the dimly lit room. I unpacked my belongings, trying to shake off the feeling that the wilderness was watching, a sentient presence lurking in the shadows. The daylight waned, and I found myself drawn to the window, peering into the encroaching darkness. Night fell like a heavy curtain, enveloping the cabin in an inky blackness. The only illumination came from the feeble glow of the moon and stars. The distant hooting of an owl echoed through the forest, a haunting melody that seemed to foretell of the mysteries hidden within the ancient woods. As I lay in bed, the creaks and groans of the cabin settling into the night played like a sinister lullaby. Sleep eluded me, and my mind wandered into the realms of the unknown. A tapping sound echoed from outside, irregular and unsettling. I dismissed it as the whims of the wilderness, yet unease lingered. A sudden chill swept through the room, extinguishing the feeble warmth of the fireplace. Shadows, elongated and distorted, seemed to come alive, dancing on the walls like phantoms with malevolent intent. I felt a presence, unseen but palpable, watching from the corners of the room. I forced myself to dismiss the irrational fear, blaming it on the isolation and the wild imagination fueled by the stories I'd heard about this place. Closing my eyes, I sought refuge in the solace of sleep, hoping to escape the oppressive atmosphere. But the tapping outside persisted, evolving into an ominous rhythm that resonated within my very bones. An unsettling awareness crept over me, a realization that something unnatural lurked in the forest, encroaching upon the cabin with each passing moment. I ventured outside, compelled by an unseen force, the moon casting an ethereal glow upon the trees. The tapping led me deeper into the wilderness, the silence broken only by the rustling leaves and my own hushed footsteps. The shadows converged, taking shape in the moonlit clearing. An ancient, gnarled tree stood at the center, its twisted branches reaching towards the heavens. In the shadows cast by the moon, figures moved, ethereal and elusive. As the figures turned towards me, their faces emerged from the darkness, faces of long-forgotten inhabitants of this cursed forest. Their eyes, void of life, bore into my soul. The tapping transformed into a haunting melody, a symphony of the lost souls bound to this desolate place. I stumbled backward, the forest closing in around me. The cabin, once a haven, now felt like a prison within the grasp of malevolent forces. The figures advanced, their shadows eclipsing the moonlight, and the tapping crescendoed into a cacophony of despair. I awoke in a cold sweat, the first light of dawn filtering through the cabin window. The tapping and the haunting melody lingered in my mind, a ghostly echo of the spectral encounter in the night. The wilderness outside seemed calm and benign, but the shadows of the ancient forest had left an indelible mark on my soul. As I packed my belongings, the memories of that fateful night clung to me like the lingering fog. The cabin, once a refuge, now stood as a testament to the unseen horrors that could eclipse the tranquility of the mountains. I left the wilderness behind, haunted by the shadows that danced in the depths of the ancient woods. Title: Whispers in the Pines. The mountain cabin lodge stood solitary, surrounded by towering pines that whispered ancient secrets in the breeze. I sought solace in this secluded haven, hoping to escape the demands of the outside world. Little did I know, the mountains held more than just tranquility, they harbored a tale of supernatural echoes. As night descended upon the wilderness, the cabin exuded an inviting warmth. The fireplace crackled, casting a soft glow that flickered across the wooden walls. I settled into a comfortable chair, a book in hand, intending to lose myself in its pages. The shadows outside the window deepened, and an unusual stillness enveloped the cabin. Unbeknownst to me, the pines held their breath, as if anticipating the arrival of an unseen presence. A chill crept into the room, and I felt the weight of watchful eyes upon me. Curiosity overcame my apprehension, and I stepped onto the porch. The moon cast an ethereal glow on the towering pines, their needles rustling in the night air. Whispers emerged, soft and haunting, as if the trees themselves held conversations beyond human comprehension. In the distance, a figure materialized among the pines. A spectral silhouette, barely distinguishable from the shadows, moved with an ethereal grace. The whispers intensified, forming a melodic symphony that resonated through the mountain air. I followed the ghostly figure into the heart of the pine forest. The crunch of pine needles beneath my feet echoed in the stillness. The figure beckoned, leading me deeper into the ancient grove where the moonlight struggled to penetrate the dense canopy above. As we reached a moonlit clearing, the spectral presence turned to face me. A woman, draped in a gown of flowing mist, stood before me. Her eyes held a sorrowful depth, and her outstretched hands seemed to beckon me to a forgotten realm. The whispers in the pines transformed into a haunting melody, a lament that echoed the tragic tale of a love lost to the ages. The woman's ethereal voice joined the chorus, intertwining with the rustling of leaves and the sighs of the mountain wind. A sudden realization struck me. I had become entwined in the spectral romance of the mountains. The woman's eyes spoke of a timeless yearning, and the pines held the echoes of a love story etched into the very fabric of the landscape. As the haunting melody reached its climax, the woman's form dissipated like morning mist. The pines, once filled with whispers, fell into a somber silence. I stood alone in the moonlit clearing, the echoes of the supernatural encounter lingering in the mountain air. Returning to the cabin, the weight of the encounter settled on my shoulders. The whispers in the pines had revealed a love story lost to time, leaving me with a profound sense of connection to the ancient spirits that dwelled in the heart of the mountains. With the first light of dawn, I departed the mountain cabin lodge, carrying the echoes of the supernatural encounter with me. The pines whispered their farewells, and the haunting melody lingered in the mountain breeze, a reminder that the wilderness held secrets that transcended the boundaries of the known world. Title: Shadows of the Forgotten. The mountain cabin lodge stood as a time capsule, surrounded by an ancient forest that seemed to guard forgotten secrets. Seeking refuge from the chaos of the world, I arrived at this haven, hoping to find solace in the embrace of nature. Little did I know, the mountains held a tale of the forgotten, a tale that would intertwine with the very fabric of my existence. As night draped its veil over the landscape, the cabin exuded a gentle warmth, a beacon in the sea of towering pines. I settled into the coziness of the living room, the crackling fireplace casting dancing shadows on the wooden walls. The quiet of the wilderness wrapped around me like a comforting cloak. In the stillness, a subtle murmur began to permeate the air. It was a voice, distant yet persistent, like an echo from a bygone era. I strained to listen, wondering if the mountains themselves were whispering the tales of the forgotten. The voice seemed to beckon me into the heart of the ancient forest. Unable to resist its call, I stepped outside, the moonlight filtering through the thick canopy above. The shadows of the towering pines stretched like ghostly fingers, reaching out to me as if inviting me into a realm unseen. The voice guided me deeper into the wilderness, each step echoing with the resonance of the forgotten. As I navigated the labyrinthine paths, the voice transformed into a melodic lament, a chorus of memories etched into the very soil beneath my feet. The forest floor seemed to pulse with the heartbeat of a forgotten era, and the air hummed with the echoes of lives long gone. A clearing emerged, bathed in the silvery glow of the moon. In the center stood a circle of weathered stones, each bearing the weight of forgotten tales. The shadows surrounding the stones seemed to coalesce, forming ethereal figures from a distant past. As the moonlight embraced the shadows, the figures took on substance, revealing the spectral forms of those who had once called this ancient forest home. Their eyes, filled with the wisdom of the ages, spoke of lives lived and stories left untold. The voice, now a collective murmur, recounted the forgotten histories of the mountain's guardians. I stood in silent communion with the spectral inhabitants of the forest, feeling the weight of their stories settle on my shoulders. The forest, once a mere backdrop, had become a living tapestry woven with the threads of the forgotten. The shadows danced, recounting tales of love, loss, and the passage of time. As the first light of dawn painted the sky, the spectral figures faded back into the shadows, their stories echoing in the wind. I returned to the cabin, forever changed by the encounter with the forgotten. The mountains, it seemed, held not only the tranquility I sought, but also the poignant narratives of those who had become one with the ancient forest. With a heart heavy with the weight of the past, I bid farewell to the mountain cabin lodge. The echoes of the forgotten lingered in the wind, a haunting melody that would forever resonate in the recesses of my memory. The ancient forest, a repository of untold stories, had woven its magic into the very fabric of my soul.